Capital Gains Tax Solutions. In this video, we're covering if I'm in escrow, is it too late to use a deferred sales trust? Or when is it too late to use the deferred sales trust? The answer is it depends. So it's really important to understand that the deferred sales trust basically has three parties. There's a buyer, there's a seller, and there's a trust in between the buyer and the seller. And what happens when it's too late is if the buyer can compel the seller to exit or to sell, and you don't have the trust set up in time in order to transact in between. And so it's too late if the buyer can compel the seller to sell. And that is what's called a constructive receipt on the seller side, and that's what's called a binding commitment on the buyer side. Now, those are a lot of big words and a lot of kind of legal talk there. And so I want to kind of break down like the practicality of all this, because we get calls all the time for people wanting to use the deferred sales trust, and they're curious, hey, I'm already in escrow, or I saw a video about this, or I read a blog about that says these certain things, and it's just simply not true. If you're in escrow, you can still use the deferred sales trust as long as the buyer has not removed all contingencies. And that's really the most important thing to ask is look at the contract, and does the contract say the buyer hereby removes all contingencies, and or there's an addendum to that. Now, the practicality of this is we do want to set up the deferred sales trust prior to the close of escrow and prior to removing all contingencies, which means you're going to want to get with us early, and you want to pre-plan the exit and set up the trust, ideally even before you open escrow, so that you have plenty of time to vet the strategy. Plenty of time to vet who we are, plenty of time to see if the deferred sales trust can be a perfect fit for you. But if you do find yourself in a situation where you're already under contract and the buyer is in their due diligence period and they're in the process of removing some contingencies, then yes, it's very important that this become an urgent thing for you to get the trust set up, and in an addendum have option language to use the deferred sales trust. Now, that applies to 99% of our transactions, which are product types that would be, so business sales or a primary home sale or cryptocurrency or a stock sale, and or NFTs. That would be, we need to do that because we don't have what's called a 1031 option. Now, if you find yourself in the fortunate situation where you are in an investment real estate seller and you do qualify for a 1031 exchange, right? 1031 exchanges qualify for investment real estate properties, or investment real estate properties qualify for a 1031 exchange. So you can find you have an additional time period. It's like overtime in a football game, right? All of a sudden, oh my gosh, I got another chance to use the deferred sales trust. And that as long as you work with an accommodator, a qualified intermediary who will allow or accommodate for the deferred sales trust, then yes, we've got this overtime period. And this overtime period basically is about 45 days from your close of escrow, as long as the funds went to a qualified intermediary. Very important, right? If they go to your personal account, it's taxable. So you want to make sure that you're working with a qualified intermediary that will allow that tax deferral using a deferred sales trust. Now, of course, not everyone wants you to know about this, right? And so be aware that when you're interviewing qualified intermediaries, that you're asking them the question, have you done a deferred sales trust, and will you accommodate, and can we write that into the exchange agreement? Now, of course, here at Capital Gains Tax Solutions, we already have those strategic alliances lined up, and we provide those for you. And so you can have a seamless 1031 exchange option, or a deferred sales trust option, or a Delaware 1031 option at your choice. And we only get paid on the deferred sales trust if the deferred sales trust closes. So that being said, back to the overtime period. So you have 45 days to identify 3 properties. If you've identified 3 properties, then you're going to have to wait essentially until you've either closed on those, or you're basically day 181 or day 180 is up. Then we can use the deferred sales trust, okay? As long as we put this properly in the exchange agreement. So the moral of the story is, yes, you can absolutely use the deferred sales trust if you're in escrow, and as long as the buyer hasn't removed contingencies. But the moral of the story is essentially get with us early, pre-plan, and don't catch the buyer off guard. Don't want to catch escrow off guard, or M&A advisor, or your commercial real estate broker. You don't want to catch them off guard. Again, if you have a primary home, you don't even qualify for a 1031 or crypto or a business sale. You don't have that extra overtime period, which with the deferred sales trust you do. Now, the last part of this is if you wanted to close on the deferred sales trust in the overtime period, day 46 is essentially when you would do that. However, you'd have to forego identifying any properties. So identification of properties, typically on a 1031, you're identifying one, 2, or 3 properties. And as long as you de-identify by the 45th day, we can move the funds into the deferred sales trust. So that's hopefully this helps you, right, to understand when it's too late, if it's too late for the deferred sales trust. Please go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com to learn more about the deferred sales trust, to download the free ebook. Check out our new book that's coming out, Building a Tax Deferred Exit Strategy. And if we can help you at all, or help your clients use the deferred sales trust, we're happy to connect with you. Thanks so much for watching this video. Please rate, review, subscribe.